I punched him dead in his eyes and said, "Who you calling?"
Here we go. The Q word comes back up in boxing. Let me start with the real shit. Nobody's given Billy Joe Saunders a free ticket to ride through this world. He's earned all what he has the hard way. Let that young man go for his surgery and heal up and go break bread with his family. I hope the surgery that's required is successful. Yeah, I do. 100%. Just because he's not in a position to really smack talk right now because he's down, it doesn't mean the rest of the boxing world are not going to take their shots. Now, that might not sit well with some people. Well, it may not have sat very well with Daniel Dubois and his family when Billy was doing what a lot of people are doing now, saying, you quit, and it's not acceptable. This was the worst point of Daniel's amateur and professional career. This is the worst point. And look at the classy response he gave yesterday. You fought well at Billy Joe Saunders. Hope your eye heals up quickly and you can come back stronger. Champ. Maybe you guys should be talking about that more than pouring sympathy on Billy Joe Saunders. As for the fake outrage, it's lost on me. It has no effect on me at all. I didn't force him into a boxing ring. We can start there. Any verbal attacks Billy gets, he should be able to handle because he's thrown out plenty himself. And I'm here to tell you this, all you people who was upset. If you didn't extend that same courtesy to Daniel Dubois, then you're full of it. You're full of it. You see, I don't have to want Billy Joe Saunders to go blind and not be able to enjoy the vast fortune that he earned yesterday. But if you're going to ask me honestly if I think Billy was due some of what he's been getting, yes, he was due. But look, he got beaten conclusively. His eye's damaged. And as far as I'm concerned, the lesson has been learned and it's been taught. If you want me to, over mollycoddle Billy when he hasn't mollycoddled a lot of individuals who's been targeted in his pranks and his extracurricular activity, well, I'm not going to do it. You don't want me to say he quit? Well, you give me the definition of quit. And the question is, in your interpretation, did he quit or not? Now, Billy's interpretation of quitting is that his pulse has to stop before he stops fighting. And that's what he thought was required of Daniel Dubois. So by his definition, he quit. He didn't protest the stoppage, whether the referee stopped it or Jimmy Tibb stopped it. It doesn't matter. He didn't protest. He accepted it. And yes, it's a severe injury. Multiple fractures. But I didn't see his pulse anywhere near stopping, did you? Then you got Gareth Davis, Jamie Moore, a few dudes I've never heard of before. Oh, Chris Eubank is out of order, kicking Billy when he was down. Wait, the same Billy who said something crass about Chris's mum. You can have banter. My guy brought his mum into it. Is this the same Billy who led the procession with Tyson Fury and all his mates when Nick Blackwell was fighting Chris? Led the procession to the ring. Come on, go get him. Beat him up and smash him up. And then after Eubank lost to George Groves, straight after the fight, oh, if I need someone to clean my toilets, I'll call Chris Eubank. This is the guy that Chris Eubank should have mercy for. You see, this is what's pissing a lot of people off, is a lot of your two-face hypocrisy. It's pissing a lot of people off. You ignore everything that Billy does, but you want to pick up on everything that everyone's got to say about Billy losing. Now you're targeting Chris Eubank. And yes, he won 10 grand on Billy losing, put a 10 grand bet on. But to me, that's light compared to talking about somebody's mother. I'm on Eubank Jr.'s side. The video where he targeted the docile-looking young man and the drug addict woman was so distasteful. The one about beating up your wives and your girlfriends during the pandemic was just horrific. Now, there's some people who are going to, if you talk against that, they'll look at you as a simp. You're misappropriating the word for a start. But I'm not going to go through all that now. And I'm not 100% sure about the laws of karma and all that. I'm not sure how it works, but sometimes the universe just works perfectly. I mean, that punch must have landed around 5 a.m. or whatever time on the cusp, or maybe actually on Mother's Day. That's crazy. Before the bout, Billy was saying people can critique and say it doesn't matter if I haven't lived the life. The fact is I'm fit now and I'm here. No, it does matter that you haven't lived the life. when Billy should have been having the fights that were preparing for this moment. He was out the ring, calling fights off, yo-yo dieting, pulling pranks, getting fined by the British Board of Control. Up to stuff that has no relation to boxing at all. Not focused. It's resulted in him being a super middleweight who's not really a super middleweight, not a bona fide super middleweight, struggling with opponents we've never heard of, like the guy in America on the KSI Logan Paul card. Do you think Martin Murray would have went 5 rounds with Canelo? This Martin Murray here, don't get me wrong, a prime Martin Murray is a tough motherfucker, but this version here was primed to be stopped, and Billy couldn't do it. In fact, Martin was coming back hard in the later rounds with some body shots and body attacks. The Akava fight years back when he was, doing fat camp to make 160. To me, he lost that fight. The lost opportunity against Andrade because of the nasal spray. Billy was not prepared for this fight. He wasn't prepared. And a lot of people are going to laugh when I say this because they see Billy as a multi-talented boxer. But Billy's skills are limited. They're limited. And the fact that you're going to fight Canelo, him, Callum Smith, and you don't know how to throw a body shot, when Canelo can throw them from both hands, you don't know how to fight inside, when Canelo's been able to do this for a little while now, since he was a kid, you're limited fighters. A lot of people in Britain, which was magnified when Josh Kelly lost to Avanesian, they seem to think being a boxer is somebody who can throw a shoulder roll and flick out a few jabs and mill around the periphery of the ring. They think this is a good boxer. It's not a good boxer. You need stationary defense at a certain level in pro boxing. Like you're not bouncing clean out of range so you can't come back with thunderous hard shots at your opponent after they've thrown them at you. You've got to be able to ride shots, not collect the full impact of them. You see James Toney done a whole load of sparring. That's why he looked so comfortable inside the pocket when he was fighting. Very battle hardened. Our overseas brethren who box, they can smell the fear and the limitations that you have. When you're going around saying, I need a gun to fight Golovkin, Golovkin could knock you and Eubank out in one day and stuff like that. So all the time you're clowning around and doing all that stuff there, you should have learnt by now how to throw body shots, how to stop your opponent just walking through you, how to fight inside of them, how to walk down opponents. You've got to be able to look at the short-term plan of a fight and the long-term plan. So that means sometimes you have to concentrate on winning rounds, and then sometimes you've got to strategize beyond that, how to win the fight. You've got to balance the both. Like, there'll be some stages where Billy boxed okay, like in the 4th round, but Canelo landed an uppercut which nearly dislodged the gum shield, and you could see Billy with a little buzzed, a little wary of the power, getting hit with shots like that. So yeah, you might have won the round. But Canelo's looking for the soft spot, looking for sneaky punches, catch you off guard, bust your orbital bone in your eye. Canelo prepared for Billy. He knew Billy was going to be tricky from that southpaw stance, and Billy is good at boxing behind his lead right foot. He's very good at that. These are his strengths. His first point of defense, Billy, is his right foot. Then his jab. Then he's looking for counters. These are his strengths. So Canelo didn't fight an orthodox, let me try and box his fight. No. He varied the speed of his shots. Sometimes you're thinking, Canelo's not really moving his head. Then all of a sudden he'd move it, and then from his hands looking slow, he'd throw a 3-4 punch combination. Catch Billy by surprise. Some of it looked obvious, and then some was like, where did that come from? That right uppercut, that right hook, that shot to the body. There were times he was deliberately telegraphing the body shots, but he didn't care. He wanted to let Billy know, I'm going to hit you with the hardest shots I can possibly hit you with that you've never been hit with before, and intimidate him. He was trying to make Billy react to things, like which way Billy would duck if Canelo threw a left hook, or where Billy would try to hide after he threw a shot. And then it finally caught up to Billy in the 8th round when he threw that sloppy right hand. Canelo had Billy's moves and his pattern sussed out. And when Billy ducked to his right to avoid the counter coming, Canelo threw that little short right uppercut, and it was a beautiful shot, and that's all she wrote. Billy would have moments, where he's landing a few combinations and then he's dropping his hands, getting confident. And that's all Canelo needs. If you to get overconfident, drop your hands, and then hard body shot, hard head shot, initiative loss. Then you've got to reset all again. 12-round fighter. 12-round fighter. Not a 3-minute pick up a round here and then fighter. A 12-round fighter. And when Billy threw in combination, like I said in the build-up, Canelo don't like that volume. And he done well from there. So why wasn't there more of that? Because it's hard to train somebody like Billy because he's so inactive and it's so random after a time. You need to bank them fights. Like that Jacobs fight. These are not just your resume fights. These are your fights that prepare you for this moment here. That Jacobs fight, which never happened. Or the Eubank rematch that you should have gave him because it would have bettered you and it would have bettered Chris. These fights, the Matt Corrible fight that he missed, these fights here. Who was the other guy? The African brother, who I believe had the IBF title, the WBO title, and Peter Quillen took it off him. Endam. He backed out of that fight as well. Even the Martin Murray fight, he was supposed to fight Martin twice in 2018 and he pulled out for whatever reasons. He's always pulling out of fights. 2 pullouts and ends up fighting him in 2021. Always going backwards. I'd actually say Martin Murray was a tougher fighter than Billy. I mean, arguably he beat Sergio Martinez. When Billy was saying he needed a gun to fight Golovkin, Martin got stuck in. Tried to wrestle with Golovkin and he got stopped at, what was it, in 11? But he went in there and arguably he beat Felix Sturm abroad. If Billy had a bit of Martin's toughness, mental toughness, he would have done better in boxing. But the funny thing is, Billy ended up with 2 straps at 2 different weights, and Martin didn't get no belts at all. That's because Martin had tougher fights to get the belts, that's why. These are all fights that Billy needed to step up to this moment. You get the muscle memory, and it will either break you or adjust you to the pain threshold you need to take on a Canelo or a Triple G. And obviously there's the Andrade fight that he blew as well. It was always going to be difficult for Billy to win this. Always. Boxing somebody whose mantra is boxing or no life. He's in the gym all the time, he said it. The man's got mansions everywhere and fleets of cars, but he's in the gym all the time. It's not no big flashy gym. It's a basic gym. Stinks of sweat. Just like Tommy Hearns. Just like Andre Ward. They've been with their coach for how many years? Tommy was with Emmanuel Stewart when the Kronk gym was an amateur gym. Andre Ward has been with Virgil Hunter since he was around 10 or 11 years old. And there's you guys saying Anthony Joshua should leave Rob McCracken. After how many years? Billy, Jimmy Tips, Adam Booth, Dominic Ingle, Ben Davison, now Mark Tips. Trainer to trainer, training camp, not only yo-yo dieting, but yo-yo training camps. Doesn't prepare like a champion. Angelo Dundee was with Ali for how long? These guys build relationships with their coaches and they build the gym, the environment around the fighter's needs. How long's Canelo been with Reneso? You do some research. See if there's any validity to what the old boy is saying. You have to know how to prepare like a champion, how to set up a training camp. How long was Roy Jones with Murchison? Froch with McCracken? When Billy's been fighting these fringe world-class opponents and European domestic level guys, I've never seen him get caught when he's dropped his hands. But he did Saturday. He got caught by somebody who's been in there with Erislandy Lara, Mayweather, Kovalev, Callum Smith. Another fight that Billy should have had before he fought Canelo. Another fight he could have had. Austin Trout, Shane Mosley, Danny Jacobs. I mean, some of you don't even know about Kermit Citron. That was a good opponent. Baldomir. That was a good opponent. Billy threw catch and counter combination. Nice little short shot to the body. Then left hook to the head. Towards the end of the round, Sergio Mora said, Billy stopped using the jab. And now you see Billy dropping his hands, moving around the 22-inch ring that he wanted. But now he's having to use the whole of the ring because he's flagging. Big ring. I don't know if that was to unsettle Canelo. If anything, you should have practiced to box in a smaller ring. If you're a boxer, practice to box in a smaller ring. At a certain level, when you're fighting punches, You need to be able to box in shorter circles. And you need to be able to maintain it over a whole load of rounds. But by this stage, Billy's circles are now big, long and baggy. He's losing his shape. Because like I said, all the missed opportunities in training camps and the missed opportunities to take on the best has ruined his chances. If you look at Billy's skills in spurts and flashes, this was a fight he was capable of winning. But to win these fights, you can't win them in a training camp. These fights are won over perhaps decades of dedication, with the likes of Mayweather going to the club, then running back home from the club. Billy's going to have a six-pack like Mayweather's got now when he's in his 40s? No way. The Bernard Hopkins, monitoring his diet well into his 50s. These guys. Our super middleweights over here, Callum Smith, Billy, John Ryder. It's a shame, we didn't have Eubank Ben or Calzaghe or even Steve Collins to test Canelo right now from these parts of the world. You know who else would do well? Is Richie Woodall. He had an excellent jab. He was fit as anything. He'd do pretty well against Canelo. It's only the power gap I see giving Richie trouble. All this shit about gypsies don't quit and they're tougher than everyone. Listen, listen. Don't get me wrong. Henry Wharton used to fight at 168 and he was tough as nails. He took Eubank and Ben's, all their best shots. I don't think he took a count. And then in the 8th round, Carl Froch was saying Canelo needs to throw more punches, but Canelo's cleverer than what he's given credit for. He was waiting for one of them right hands from Billy so he could counter it, and this time he got the perfect timing on it. He was looking for that right uppercut from ages ago. These things are not flukes. The bottom line is, as the fight was going into the late rounds, Billy was in serious danger. He's never fought at that intensity so late in a fight, having to think and box at the same time. This is nothing to Canelo. You got to respect the craft. You got to respect what it takes. And Billy's known what it takes. He hasn't fully respected what it takes, but he's always known. And he's came up short today. It could be his last fight. These are the harsh realities. I can't make it sound nice. These are the harsh realities. If you're going to box from the outside, you have to do a clean job, and he didn't. Canelo was rocking his head back with jabs. Billy was making mistakes when he was dropping his hands. And he didn't sit down on enough punches to slow Canelo up at all. I mean, if you're going to slow someone up, you need some body shot. He doesn't have to throw a body shot, from what I saw. He sat down on a couple of headshots. The one good body shot, where he followed up with the left hook, that was his best combination of the fight. And that was it. The rest was perfunctory in response to what Canelo was throwing. And don't tell me he was up on the scorecards. Please, stop, man. Stop. Your awful interpretation of how to score fights. A man who didn't throw one body shot and was basically in survival mode for most of the fight. He's ahead on points. I don't blame you for going over to UFC, some of you. I really don't. Tyson Fury has finally come out to support his friend. People love to hate on others willing to chase their dreams. Billy Joe Saunders tried to be great last night. It wasn't his night, but at least he had the bottle to follow his dreams and heart. Well, whether he had the bottle or not, it's subjective. You know what I mean? He quit. Them two words don't go together like Fury might want them to, quit and bottle, as far as I know. He will always be my bro. We go back 15, 16. What a night to remember in 30 years, Dallas. Well, that's fair enough. He's your bro, as you say. But maybe if you gave him some harsh words like you gave Daniel, that this is a heart game, how you told Joshua he was a quitter, and once you choke, you'll always choke. Maybe if you tell Billy that, he might be able to come back as hard as Joshua did after his loss.
I punch him dead in his eyes. Who you calling?